Facebook isn't giving me boo for my information. They're selling my information. They're whoring it out. They're giving it to everybody. They're selling it 20 times to China. The more they can learn about me, the more money they can make off of me. The exact opposite is what I'm doing. I'm saying give all your human life value to one AI agent. Trust that it's not going to go anywhere. When I take my gold and I add it to the blockchain, which I'll explain how I do that. When I put those two worlds together, the value that comes from cryptocurrency is it helps me digitize my physical gold and silver company.
Ryan, welcome to the World XP podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing super. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you do a quick intro, kind of tell the people who you are and what you do and what kind of things you got going on. And then we'll just hop into it. You've got a lot of stuff going on that I'm super excited to talk to you about, and the people listening, of course, you'll get the full story as we go through the episode. But the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eric. So I'm an entrepreneur, and I have been since I was just a little guy. I dropped out of college when I was 19. And when I was 21, I dropped out of college. I went to school when I was 19, dropped out of college when I was 21 to start selling cell phones. And this was in 99, way before your time, my friend, way before your time. And so in 99, you got to know something. Nobody owned cell phones in 99. Like there was a bunch of people with home phones, but like if you had a cell phone, you were a unique individual. You weren't normal. Like that was a very, very uncommon thing to have cell phones. And so it was like giving candy to babies. I was selling cell phones, making good rips every time I sold them. We had residuals back then where we would make a little bit off of everybody's comp plan. Anyway, it was great. It was good times. So I dropped out of college and I got the bug, and that bug was the entrepreneurial bug. And I've never looked back. I've regretted it many times because it gets tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dropping out of college, I wouldn't recommend it, but it was my path. And I learned a lot, and I've learned a lot on that path. But I'm an entrepreneur. I've got businesses now. I got a new one. I got one that's in the works that we've talked about a little bit, the cryptocurrency. But so in '99, I started my own cell phone company. We grew that cell phone company. I was just a little tidbit. This is kind of stupid, but it is what it is. I'm the first person on the planet that I know of, unless somebody outside of the United States did this, which I don't think so, because we were pioneers when it came to cell phones. But I was the first person on the planet to ever sell a cell phone in Walmart, ever. Like we had kiosks. We had these kiosks. And so what we did is, so I learned a lot when I owned my cell phone store. You can make good money off of the plan. So when you get an activation, you make a commission. And there's good money in that. Like every location that we had, we would sell like anywhere from 50 to 100 cell phones a day or a month. And you times that by anywhere from $300 to $600 in activation, and there was good cash flow in the business. But there was a secret that not a lot of people knew, and that was the accessories. We would buy car cords, leather cases, hands-free kits, face plates. We'd buy all these accessories for these cell phones, and we would buy them for $1 and sell them for $20. So we would put these packages together where we would have a hands-free kit, a faceplate for a phone, and a wireless charger, or not a wireless charger, because back then there was no wireless charger, but a car cord, faceplate. There was stuff that we could basically put together, and we would have it, though, even including the clamshell, it was like $3. And $3 created a tool a price point where I could sell them for $35 just all day long. And so we set up these kiosks in the middle of the mall, and instead of selling cell phones, we would earmark it as an accessory store. And the reason why we did that is because when you go into a mall, they will seriously rape you for the monthly fee if you're a cell phone. If you're a carrier, someone who's getting activations, they charge you a lot more than they would a normal store. Anyway, so what we did is we went in and we took advantage of the cell phone industry, but we did it with a company called Cellular Gizmos. And Cellular Gizmos just sold accessories. And then we would get referrals for activations. We'd send the referral down the store, down the hall, and then make a little rip, But anyway, in the process of doing these kiosks, I went to Walmart and I said, hey, I want to have kiosks in your store. We're going to sell cell phones. We'll sell an inexpensive cell phone and we'll give away the activation fee. And anyway, we convinced Walmart to give us a little kiosk in their store. And from that point forward, you know, the rest is history. I mean, they do their own phones, and that's a long time ago. But I was the first person to sell a cell phone. It was in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Bam, Walmart. Well, that's where you go. That's awesome though. I bet like the more packages you sold, the more you're like as somebody at that age, you're like that's where the bug hits you. You're like, if I just do this over and over and over again, I can just make more money and there's new ideas and I can do this.
Absolutely.
And so
Yeah.
there's one question actually that sparked a thought in me before we get to the question from the last guest, which is like I've had several people on recently who have gone through I don't know if we'll say like difficult things or they've quit something to start something else, and all of them have said like, yeah, I don't recommend that people do this, but all of them, yourself included, are successful. And so that's an interesting kind of like paradox to me where it's like, yeah, you don't want like that's not a good idea, but I did it and I learned all these things about it. Can you talk to that a little bit? Like what makes you say
Sure.
you don't recommend that people
Yeah.
do that, but at the same time you learned all these things from it and it's turned you into who you are today?
So a couple of things. Um, First of all, I don't know if I don't know if your customers or your listeners know who Ryan Blair is, but I had a meeting with Ryan Blair not too long ago, and I was lamenting to him about what it would look like, you know, to have success and where I was at compared to where I needed to be and the scaling that I needed to have with my company. And I was talking to him, and I was actually kind of saying to him I wanted to give up. And he said to me, he goes, if you give up, you're denying all the signals that you got up until this point. And so in business, you have like intuition and you have feelings of like, I know where this is supposed to go. I know I'm on the right track. I know this is right. I know I can make money doing this. I know that my idea is solid. And then you go into the throes and you got the fight. And that fight wears you down and it hurts. And when you're in that fight, you want to quit. But if you don't quit, it's because or when you're thinking about quitting, remember all of the times when you knew you were on the right path. Because really all that's going on in your head when you want to quit is you're just doubting whether or not you're going through something that's going to in the end be worth it. You're doubting whether or not you're on the right path. And so one of the better things to do is to doubt your doubts. Not to like feed into those doubts, but to doubt those doubts because you've had so many times where you knew you were on the right path. And so you just need to keep on going through that. Alex Hormozy says a lot of the same things. Like Alex Hormozy is very much into the, you know, the grind is the genius. The grind is the beauty that we're all looking for. I wrote one other little quick story.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a Forex company. After my cell phone company in 2004, I started a foreign exchange trading company. And I was looking for money. And what we had done is we had created a black box where we would take bank feeds and we would arbitrage them. So we would buy low and we would sell to the other bank instantaneously. So we'd buy with this bank and sell to this bank, buy with this bank, sell with this bank. I can explain it a little bit more, but let me get to the story. So I was looking for money because I thought I had the cat by the tail, man. I had figured out a black box where I could buy from one bank and sell to the other bank instantaneously and make a spread. Like I had it all figured out. And I sat down with this guy and he said, "No, I'm not going to give you money." And I was like, "Rick, you know, I crushed me because I thought for sure he was going to give me money. He was the perfect candidate. He had the money. He was sitting in my office with me. Like I thought I had the deal. I thought I was going to get it." And he looked across the table from me and he said, "Listen, Ryan, I'm not going to give you the money, but I want you to know something. I wish I could be where you are." And I was like, what are you talking about? You know, he just got done telling me, no, he had the money. I didn't have the money. My company was in trouble. I needed the money. And he was sitting there telling me that he wanted to be where I was at. And I learned something. It took me a long time to really let that digest and let that sink in what he was saying. But he was basically saying that when you're in the throes of it, that's living. That's when it hurts. That's when that's when you're living. That's what we do business for. We do business to get through those times. And those times, you can't artificially create those. You know, you got a lot of money in your back pocket. You can scratch a check. There's feelings, there is emotions, there is situations, there's a stress that you cannot recreate. There is absolutely no way you can recreate that. When you're in the throes of something, when it hurts, you can't just flip a switch and feel good. But when you're in the good, when you're comfortable, you can't flip a switch and feel bad either. So there's a lot to be learned when you're going through those hard times. And I've learned a ton by going through them, but it's not easy to hear the rah when you're going through hard times. Like no one wants to hear, stick to it, bro. You're okay. In the end, you'll get through it. But you have to hear it, because if you don't, you're going to feed into those doubts, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
those doubts are real. Those are
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, 100%. I've been feeling that a bit, like thinking about times that I've had where I've been like, oh, I don't know, and then it always ends up being like it's like I'll get through it, and then it sucks when you're in it, and then you're other side, you're like, yeah, I'm glad I went through that. Like it wasn't fun, but I made it to here, and that's a good thing. So speaking of being disheartened, the question from the last guest is, what was the last thing that made you angry, disgusted, or disheartened in politics, and what did you do about it?
Ugh. Okay, that's a good one. So I feel like politics is a fallen art. I feel like politics is a fallen way of living. So let me explain to you what I mean. When I add value to your life, when I exchange with you, we create wealth. I think the exchange creates wealth. I think dollars follow value. I have a lot of principles that I believe in when it comes to like money. Okay. I believe politics is a fallen way of living. So, like, let me give you a not fallen way of living. Treat others as you would have them treat you, or something like that. Give unto others. There's like golden rules about life, right? Okay. Well, there's golden rules about living, and I think politics, like when you've got a right way of living, a form of living that's a lower way of living is politics. So when the last time that a politician or a situation got me frustrated, this is what I did. You've got the right and you've got the left. And no matter where you fall, every once in a while, there's a glimpse of neither one of them will do you any good. There's a glimpse of like, this is a fallen art. There's a glimpse of letting you down. There's a feeling of frustration for your camp or against your camp. But there's this animosity that's always in politics. It doesn't matter if you're on the right side or the left side. You have this feeling of animosity almost at all times when you're wrapped up in politics. And the last time that my side of the camp won, the last time that my side of the camp like was on a roll, they let me down also. And I decided I'm no longer going to play into it. So my answer to the question is I got turned off when my side of the fence did me wrong. And when they did me wrong and I realized I can't trust them, and I obviously don't trust the other side, because they're the against the rules. I'm against them. But when my side let me down, I realized I'm going to get nowhere with this. This is not helping me at all. And I gave up on it. Now, I'm not put my foot in I don't put my head in the sand, but I no longer let my emotions get the best of me when it comes to politics, because it's just a fallen art. It's a fallen way of living. And I just don't play into it, because it just drains your energy, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's a great answer. I think and kind of to segue into the crypto space, but in terms of it being a fallen art, you look at some of the I'm reading a book right now by H.W. Brands on it's called The Founding Partisans, but it's basically the story of the Constitutional Convention told by, and you get to like read these anecdotes from Madison and Ben Franklin and all these people, and it's like these people actually had an interest in governing in a way that made sense, and maybe of course probably is a little bit romanticized, but it's like I read their writings from that time and I'm like, this is a completely different way of looking at government and
Yes.
self-government and all these things.
Yes. Their vision was high. They had
Yeah,
a higher way of looking. They believed that governing the right way would actually help humanity flourish. And
yeah,
I don't think it's a romanticized. Look, check it out. I'll push back, and I know you'll probably agree with this because you like
yeah,
the book. I'm assuming you like this book.
yeah, yeah,
But I would beg to say that it's not romanticized. Like we could, if we lived the way the founders intended for us to live, we would flourish. We would
hmm,
flourish. Capitalism would take off. We would have incredible affluency and abundance. We would have abundance. But we don't live like that anymore. And we try to govern each other, and we try to put our foots on, we try to tell each other where the rules are and what we need to do. And I need to govern you and you need to govern me. And there's just, we don't have a resemblance of what the founders wanted it to be. So I think, and I believe this, if you study the founders, you'll turn your brain on. You'll turn your
yeah,
brain on. And if you turn your brain on, That's a good that you can tap into some good politics or some good ways of thinking. The problem is when you go out there with that, people think you're crazy. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, you're like some nut. You're like some constitutionalist, or like they tune out. And you know why they tune out? They tune out because politics have got them down. They've
Hmm.
lost their belief in politics.
Yeah. And the other thing in the book is it gives the stories of kind of air quotes regular people who maybe worked at the tavern where they were staying when like the delegates would come up to Philadelphia and things like that. And it's like everybody had an interest in what was going on, and they were all, not all, but tried to be read in on kind of the scenario. And of course that's a lot more difficult today. We've got the internet and think like the news cycles going 1,000 miles a minute and all these things. So it's more difficult, but there's all I think there's quotes of like an informed populace is the greatest enemy of the tyrant or some like things like that. And there's all these things that I think we need to get back to and as well as the sort of decentralization concept. And that's where for me crypto makes a lot of sense. And so for you, where how did you end up? Well, I guess just for the people listening, maybe to describe crypto and blockchain, just like in the layman's terms, and then we can jump into some of the more minutia and then into your stuff specifically. Can you hear me?
The crypto. Okay, so you want me to? Let me make sure I understand your question. Are you asking me to talk about crypto at its rudimentary, like the blockchain side?
Yeah,
What
so
is it?
like
How does it work?
yeah, so like the decentralization piece on like why it makes sense, why people are so high on crypto as a form, right? Why people are saying so I had a guy on the pod a little while ago. He runs basically they do stuff on the Cardano blockchain, but it's like elections and voting and things like that. And like so why the appeal and why the decentralization and why it like why people are high on it, but also why it works, and just like for the layman, kind of the people listening that maybe don't have the context as to like the stuff that we'll dive into. Just give some context for
Sure.
blockchain and all that
So
stuff.
so that's a tall order, that question, but I'm going to do my
It is,
best.
yeah.
But that's a tall order, and the reason let's talk about why it's a tall order. Um, to articulate the value of cryptocurrency is it's something that's been tried and tried and tried over and over and over again. There's probably been some magical comments, magical sentences that people have put together that make somebody go, that's interesting. I think I understand it a little bit better. But understanding cryptocurrency, part of the battle of cryptocurrency is understanding cryptocurrency. Like the reason why the adoption is slow is because people are like, I don't get it. And I'm just going to ignore that. I don't understand it. I have to remember this and I have to do this and I have to do that. Let's go back to what you just asked, though. Let's go back to the rudimentary, like what's the value of a cryptocurrency? What's the value of decentralization? And try and do our best to like answer that question without rambling. And this is it. Decentralization means nobody owns it. Decentralization means you can't tell me what to do with my thing on the blockchain. So, and not only that, but you're basically saying, and I can't lie to the blockchain. The blockchain is going to keep me and you in order. So if I agree to something and you agree to something, the blockchain is going to make sure that we accomplish that something. And it's going to keep it secure, and it's going to do it in a way that doesn't involve any other third parties. They can't intervene. And so that opens up in a very simple way. If you can keep that box, it opens up to a lot of freedom. It opens you up to a lot of interesting ideas and ways to use that little tool. It's called a ledger. And so when you're dealing in these ledgers, again, it doesn't lie, it can't be manipulated, it can't be hacked. There's these valuable um, pieces of a blockchain that have other individuals jumping in and saying, hey, what if I take my business and apply it to the blockchain? What if I take my company and use blockchain to better it? A lot of people think, well, is that all it is? And I'm like, yeah, that's all it is. That's all it is. You're just taking um, the technology and you're implementing the value of that technology into your company, and you usually keep your core business in place. I give you lots of examples. Let me give you the one that I'm currently working on. I sell gold and silver. And so I sell gold and silver all day long, every day. I buy it, I sell it. And there's a lot of problems to gold and silver. First of all, it's clunky. It's hard to store. It's expensive. You have to keep it safe, because if you lose it, you lost your money. It's not like you can go to your banker and say, "Hey, man, undo that transaction. I didn't mean to send that, or I didn't mean to do that, or I got robbed, or whatever." Don't deny charges. You can't do that with gold. So there's a lot of weaknesses to gold. So you might say, well, then what does that have to do with cryptocurrency? Well, if I take my gold business and I wrap cryptocurrency around it, I change what I can do with gold. And I'll give you a reason why. So, like, if I buy gold right now, I have nothing but to store it in my basement, store it in my vault, take it to my local bank, and store it. That's my options. Okay. But when I wrap it with cryptocurrency and digitize it, I can do a whole bunch of things with it. I can trade it. I can exchange it. I can redeem it. I can and there's these things I can do with it that I couldn't have done with it if I hadn't digitized it. And people are like, well, is digitizing it meaning I'm putting cryptocurrency with it? Yeah. So when I take my gold and I add it to the blockchain, which I'll explain how I do that. But when I put those two worlds together, the value that comes from cryptocurrency is it helps me digitize my physical gold and silver company. And so your guest that came on a couple weeks ago, that had, I think you said, what was he doing with crypto
Oh,
again?
Logan Pancho, his company is like an AI and blockchain. So basically they run applications on the Cardano blockchain. So whether it's making voting systems or like
Okay.
polling systems, and then they help companies implement those things into like that sort of stuff.
Right. I don't know anything about him, but I would assume he had his business of voting, and the core business that he had was there in the beginning. And what he did is he just made it better by implementing Cardano blockchain. So Cardano brought something that he couldn't have, that made his company better. And people do with cryptocurrency is they digitize their company. So let me explain that. Think of it as like an IPO. You go to the NASDAQ, you go get an investment banker, they take your company, they divide it into stocks, and then they go out and sell the stocks on the secondary market. Or they just go and sell it on the NASDAQ. And you're on the NASDAQ, and people can buy your okay. Well, lots of people have taken their company and they've said, okay, here's a token. You buy this token and you're buying part of my company. It's just like an IPO. They even called them ICOs in the beginning, initial coin offerings. And so people kind of got those mixed up. It's like, am I using the technology for the company, or am I using the technology to raise money for the company? It's like crypto's kind of got a lot of uses, and so people get confused on what's the real use case for it. And it's kind of hard to pin it down, because you've got cable companies using crypto, you've got gold and silver companies using crypto, you've got voting companies using crypto, you've got betting services and betting companies using crypto, and how they use it is a lot of times different. But I think to answer your question, um, it's a technology that allows us to anon- with an anonymity, do things that we wouldn't be able to digitally do otherwise.
Yeah. So regarding Logan, I think they were doing Web3 and blockchain stuff first, and I think that was the application that they used. But Logan, if you end up listening to this, please correct me if I'm wrong. But in any event, I think going back to the gold piece, I think just to give
Okay.
some context on for people listening, like why gold, or why what provides the value for anything that you use. And for like even for the US dollar, it's a piece of paper that you and I have agreed based on society or a government or whatever, that this dollar represents X number of value. And that can be across anything. So like the crypto people have agreed that at the current moment, one Bitcoin is worth 115 grand. And right, it's a store of value. And so gold is the same thing. It's a store of value. And like you mentioned, it's clunky. So it's hard for me to transfer gold to you, because I would have to mail it, and then there's shipping costs associated with it and all these other things. You could lose it in the mail. And so what you have done, for people listening, is basically a way to transfer that store of value from peer to peer without regulation. And then in terms of not without regulation, but kind of. And then the blockchain is the computer scientists basically have figured out a way to document all these peer-to-peer transactions in a thing called the blockchain, and then it's on the ledger, and that's where you go find it. So every Bitcoin transaction ever is on the Bitcoin blockchain somewhere, and you can go find it if you want. Um, so that's like very rudimentary, but just like that's why, because it's a store of value and people are searching for stores of value when there's times of chaos. People are like, oh, the US is doing this and the world over here is doing this. I don't know if the dollar is gonna, there's inflation, yada yada. So people find ways to store value in things like whether it's crypto, dollars, real estate, stocks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all these things are just stores of value. And then the way that makes it currency is like if you can transact it. And there's I think a certain definition that's like got to have a store of value, easy to transact, and I think there's a third
Yeah.
thing to call it
Yeah.
currency. Um, okay, so I wanna touch on the gold and silver piece without the crypto because gold and silver, there's a lot of ads running around the podcast kind of scene about, oh yeah, use code Joe Rogan and you get your gold precious metals or whatever I think the company is called, something like that. But just talk about the gold and silver kind of market, why it's valuable, why people use it. Um, there's a comedian that's got a joke about his dad watching Fox News trying to get one fact, and he's like, "Oh, a commemorative gold coin will come on and it'll wipe his hard drive and he'll forget everything." He's like, "Oh, I gotta get the coin, right?" But
That's funny.
I think a lot
That's
of
super funny.
people I'll send you the clip after, but I think a lot of people have heard about gold and silver and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's a great store of value." But then you're like, "Well, like you said, it's clunky. Am I just going to keep it in my house or like how does it work? Why do people do it? Like the practicality of it. All the just like touch on the gold and silver industry in a way that like for somebody that is like, "Oh yeah, that's a shiny thing that's worth some money," but like what is it? Like explain it to people in a way that's like, "Okay, I understand in terms of maybe I'll buy some
Okay.
or not buy some."
I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it because I mean your questions are like
That's a lot,
they're
but just give
you
like
got these.
a lot of people have heard like things and then they're like, okay, I've heard of it, but like what is it? And so just give some context into these things. It's really what so like I think we spoke about this on the phone, but like I love exploring topics that I know a little bit about and then just filling in the pieces of the puzzle. And
Let's
so
do
for the
it.
people listening,
No,
yeah,
let's
so
do it.
go ahead.
Yeah, so let me explain. Okay, I wasn't a gold bug my whole life. That's not what I am. And so let me explain to you what a gold bug is. A gold bug is a guy like the guy that was watching Fox News and saw the commemorative coin and forgot everything else. That's a funny visual in my head because I've seen people regularly that are gold bugs, and I don't hate on gold bugs. I love gold bugs. I think they're great, but I'm not a gold bug. I'm not a gold bug. So I don't have this like strong affinity towards gold, but this is what I've become. I've become a believer in gold. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So my background is I started the Ohio Mint. And so in 2020, we started a minting facility and we would mint gold and silver coins. And I would bring in 1,000 ounce bars and we would melt it down and we would create these 1 ounce rounds. We would create 1 ounce rounds. And those 1 ounce rounds, we would distribute them throughout the United States. Tens of thousands a day we would sell all over the country to coin dealers, jewelry stores, pawn shops, all over the country, wholesalers, auction houses. We would sell literally thousands and thousands of silver coins every single day. And I learned a lot when I went through that business. But one of the things I learned is that it is clunky, that people can't store it. It's like it's something they were buying, but they didn't have any use for it. And I would always ask them, I'd say, what if you could spend it? And they would be like, oh, as soon as I can spend it, you got to give it, because I had this idea that I had with cryptocurrency. I had the idea of like, let's liquefy it and I'll let people spend it. They're like, oh, if I could spend my gold and silver, you should call me. I'd give you all my money. And I would think to myself, why? Like, why are they so amped to give money to gold and silver? And over the years, what I've learned is because it holds its value. And I know that's so simple. And people just are like, yeah, but I could make so much more in the S&P, or I could make so much more in Bitcoin. I could make so much more in all these. Yes, you could, but you're going to have to ride that roller coaster also. And gold is like the engine that could. It just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And I know I've been involved in gold during its heyday. Like when I got involved in gold, it was $1,600. It's $3,400 today. So I've been through it and I'm jaded. $1,800 swing. I think just gold's always good. In my mind, I got this paradigm now that gold is always good. But when you look at the historical data that shows 8% a year on a regular basis, every year, and you look at your buying power and you look how much it costs to go to the grocery store and buy apples and oranges and how much it costs to fill your automobile and all these things that are real, they're real. And I put a lot of money into gold and silver because I got in the business. And I don't know about you, but when you're in the business, you're in the podcast business, you probably have multiple microphones. You have probably multiple headsets. You probably have multiple cameras. You probably have multiple because you're in the podcast business. Well, I'm in the gold and silver business. So I acquire gold and silver at low prices every chance I get. I acquire the coolest coins, for the normal prices because they're on sale. And so I've got this collection of gold and silver. And over the years, it's maintained its value so well that I'm a believer now. I'm like, dude, why have your money in US dollars? It doesn't make any sense. Why not just put your money in gold? It's totally liquid. You can sell it anytime. So, there's not as if it's not like real estate or the S&P or your brokerage account or your Coinbase account where you're going to have to wait 7 days to deposit or withdraw $50,000. Bro, I can get you $250,000 in 5 minutes. You just let me know you need to get rid of it. It's gone. I'll sell it. It's easy. And so it's so liquid. It's money. It doesn't go down in value. I don't see the value in putting my savings anywhere but gold now. Like I've totally flipped on it. I thought it was just a tool. And then there's also something else about gold that's pretty fascinating. And that is it does things that you don't think it'll do. Like people will take note. Like you say, hey, I can send you gold. They'll listen to you. Hey, I've got a lot of gold. They'll listen to you. Hey, I've got gold for collateral. They're like, okay, cool. Gold for collateral, done. If you got gold is not just metaphysically cool. It's not just fun to hold. It is cool and it moves mountains just like dollars move mountains. And so it's just a more steady, more secure form of money for me. And I'm not here trying to shield gold, but let me get into one other thing because earlier you spawned a thought for me, but it's called premiums. But I'm not shilling gold here today. I'm not telling. By the way, here, let me shill it. I'll give you a plug. If you're buying gold and you're not buying it from me, you're losing money. Period. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you live in the country. I don't care who you say you are. I don't care who you know. I don't care what late night infomercial buddy you have. I don't care if you know Alex freaking, not Alex. What's that guy's name? Talk show host. I don't care who you know. I don't care who you know. If you're buying gold from somebody else, you're not getting it as cheap as you could from me. There's my plug. Okay, but I'm not here trying to sell gold. I'm a byproduct of the benefit of owning the gold. I went to it, this is something that happens when you have it. So you got it in your storage at the bank, and you can get it liquid at any time. You know it. But because it's a little heavy and you got to go over to the bank and get it, or you got to go down to the safe and open it up, you hesitate. And so it's like the perfect savings account. And I know that's so stupid because you're like, no, man, when I know I need money, I go get my money. I don't need to play these games with myself.
That makes sense.
No, you do. You save more gold and silver than you would otherwise. You're slower to get rid of it. And so because you're slower to get rid of it and it's appreciating, it's like the greatest savings account of all time. It's awesome. Anyway, yeah. So let me get to premiums and why I'm the one that you should buy gold and silver from. When you buy gold and silver, first of all, you got a question?
No. You're good.
Okay, so when you buy gold and silver, you buy it with the premium. So you buy a 1 ounce round, and then the cost of silver is known by everybody. So you're going to pay XYZ for gold, and you're going to pay ABC for silver. Doesn't matter. Like nobody is giving you gold and silver on sale. If they say it's on sale, you're getting ripped off. There's no such thing as gold and silver on sale. It's like saying, I know a guy where if you give him 98 cents, he'll hand over a dollar bill to you. Like, who's not going to do that? Who's not going to go figure out how to get 98 cents to get a dollar? Every one of us is going to go do it. Especially if we could do it all day, every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If we could do that all day, every day, we would do it 99 cents to a dollar. We would totally do that. So if someone says they're getting you silver or gold on sale, you're getting taken. That's your first red flag right there. Okay, so there's what they call the spot price. And the spot price is the cost of gold and silver, and then they add something to it called a premium. Okay, the premium is the cost above and beyond the spot price, and that's what the guy that's selling it to you is making. It's called a premium. Okay, so when you're buying gold and silver, don't argue with them about the price of gold and silver. Argue with them about their premium. That's what they're making. Okay, and that's how you buy gold and silver. You buy it off of the premium. You bring that premium down, and then you get the best deal, because gold and silver is the same price everywhere you go. It's the premium that's your haircut that you're taking that you don't want to take. That's where you lose money, is on the premium.
And you got low premiums?
I got low premiums, bro. But I'm a wholesaler. So I buy all I care about is volume. So
Ah,
like my neighbors will come to me and they need 500 ounces of silver. I'm like, dude, done. 50 cents, 25 cents, spot, wherever it is, whatever the market is, because I'm just about volume. And so I'm not like Sean Hannity or somebody, Glenn Beck. I'm not trying to like make these huge premiums. And trust me, just put me to the test. I'm not trying to sell gold, but I'm just saying, you just go compare. You go to Costco and buy gold, and then come to me and I'll show you. And this is Costco we're talking about.
yeah, yeah.
It's Costco. I can beat Costco prices.
Pretty good. Okay, so that makes total sense regarding the gold and kind of store it in the bank and then all these things. So where did the crypto idea come from? And and I'm gonna kind of caveat the question from like crypto's been around for a little bit. We've already touched on the benefits of it. Um, But for you to say like, yeah, I want to get into now because crypto is like into the technology space, so it's a different industry for you. Um, to start your own crypto company, and people have been kind of doing this with like Tether is the version of what you're doing for the US dollar, and there's USDC, and there's other things that kind of go towards more tangible assets, um, rather than completely digital ones such as Bitcoin or Ethereum or some of these other ones. And the other thing, actually, I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about just money concepts and value is like the other reason why crypto is especially Bitcoin, um, seems to be working is the sound money principle of like scarcity. There's a limited number of these things, so you can't print infinite dollars or infinite euros or infinite whatever. There's only so many Bitcoin that are going to exist. 21 million, I think the number is saying that you can't make gold out of nothing. There's a finite amount of gold. Um, Although I guess probably I think with like nuclear fission or something, you can turn something into gold, but it's much too expensive to be viable. I think I read that somewhere. But anyways, so what was the kind of the genesis for you to get into the technology industry? And you're like, because it makes sense, right? You're like, okay, yeah, gold, it would be easier to transfer digitally, but then to actually go
Yeah,
ahead and be like, yeah, I'm gonna actually do this. Like, where was that idea?
yeah,
What was the process behind that? What were some of the hoops
yeah,
that you had to jump through? All those things.
yeah. Brutal. It was brutal, and I got into it because I thought it wasn't going to be brutal, right? I had this great idea, and the great idea was actually, in my opinion, it was a solid idea. I'll explain the idea to you in just or as right now. I'll explain the idea. I truly believe that everybody should use gold. I don't think that it's not just to me. It's a
Actually,
To me,
can I
it's a
pause you real
matter.
quick? Before we
Sure.
get to that, I know there's companies that have like gold ETFs.
Yeah.
What does that mean for like,
It's a piece of paper. It's an IOU. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with an IOU if that's what you want. But if you want a paper IOU or digital numbers on a screen, okay, there's a lot of people out there that'll sell you gold, but it's just selling you digital kabuki and a paper IOU. And if you ever went to that company, that ETF company, you went to your Fidelity or your bigger share companies, these guys that do a lot of gold paper, and you said, "Hey, look, I want to have my ounces of silver sent to me, or I want my gold sent to me." You'll never ever do it again. You'll
yeah,
never ever try and do it again.
yeah,
So it's just whether or not what you want. It's the difference between having actual gold backing your investment or having a piece of paper back your investment. If the cost is the same, why would you not drive the Lamborghini? It's
Yep.
just, why not have it? It's the same price. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense not to have it. And what's the Lamborghini in this analogy? The Lamborghini is real gold, audited and insured in a class 3 vault in America. That's what you want. And then to be able to access it via your cryptocurrency and your Visa card. So you can swipe it, you can go to the grocery store, you can spend it, you can have it transferred to your friends, you can buy it intercontinentally, you can send it to Africa. Someone in Africa can use the cryptocurrency. It's awesome. It's awesome. But it's all backed on gold. It's not fiat. So everything that is stored in gold. So when the price of gold goes up, your value of your portfolio goes up, and your buying power increases.
Okay, so
So I'll
talk
answer your
to the
first
Visa
question though.
card. Talk to the Visa card example because I think that's another confusing one for people where you're like, okay, I've got gold sitting in a vault, but I'm gonna swipe a card. Does somebody go in and like chip a little gold away or like,
Yeah.
yeah, talk to that.
So yeah, digitally they go and do that. But it's every day you so when you wake up, let's say you got a $50,000 account, you're gonna go spend $25,000 and buy a used car. So you need $25,000 today. You log into your account, you transfer from your gold balance to your Visa balance, you basically your debit card. You transfer $25,000 over and go spend it. It's not any more difficult than that. The reason why it's also not. This is important. It's not groundbreaking. It's like you could just wire money to yourself and then use your debit card. But I'm trying to make it easy on people. I'm trying to help people see you should spend gold. Because if you spend gold, you'll save 25%. Gold appreciated 27% in 24, 27% in 1 year. It's already appreciated an additional 20% in 2025. So think about it. Your money would have appreciated by 45% in the last 24 months had you just let it sit there in gold. Well, take everything you spent last year, mortgage, clothing, groceries, vacations, and times it by 25%. That's what you would have saved spending gold instead of fiat.
It's like a
So
it's like a high
it's like
yield
it's
savings
like
on steroids.
$50,000 for a lot of people. 100,000, it could be a large number.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a high yield savings on steroids almost. Is a good way
Exactly.
to think about it. Um, and then the backed by gold part also that goes back to the scarcity piece of why all of a sudden like your money sitting in a savings account even if it's making I don't know what rates are for like money markets like 4% something like that. Like you could still lose money if inflation gets up to like 8, 9, 10%. Like you could be making 4% interest and you still lose purchasing power. Um, okay. So back to the crypto question. Where did that come from?
Okay. Okay. So the crypto. So I just decided. Look, people need gold. They need gold, and there's no way to access gold unless we can give it to them digitally, and they give me the physical. So they have to trust me. They have to trust the system, but they have to trust their bank. They have to trust the Fed. They have to trust. I mean, look at all the people we put in all this trust in ourselves. So they have to trust me. But if they give me the gold, I give them the power. I give them the digital equivalent, and that's the only thing you can accomplish that with is cryptocurrency. You could do that with Visa, but then you can't transfer from one wallet to the other wallet because you need wallets. It's not going to be as secure with Visa as it is with blockchain. There's just a lot of upside to using blockchain. And then there's a lot of upside to using gold and silver. So traditionally, what a cryptocurrency does is it goes up and it goes down. It goes up and it goes down. It goes up and it goes down. My cryptocurrency is backed by gold. So when my cryptocurrency goes up, it's because gold goes up. When it goes down, it's because gold goes down. They're pegged to one another. So you're not getting into my cryptocurrency trying to make 25% a year. That's not the reason why you're getting into my cryptocurrency. It's a byproduct. It's happened the last 2 years. Not going to happen again, but it happened. Well, maybe it will. I don't know what's going to do. But you're not getting into my cryptocurrency to speculate. You're getting into my cryptocurrency to store your money somewhere other than Chase. You want it somewhere else than Wells Fargo, somewhere else. And that bank account is a gold bank account, and it does what gold does. And so the cryptocurrency just fluctuates with gold, and it's boring, but you have all the technology and the benefits of cryptocurrency, of blockchain, And then you've got all the security and the backing of gold and silver. And it's 1 for 1. For every ounce of gold, there's one token. For every ounce of silver, there's one token. It's just 1 for 1.
So well, that makes it a lot more accessible then to the rest of the like not that it's not accessible to people, but like we talked about earlier, people will see an ad and then be like, "Oh, that sounds interesting," and go about their lives and never buy gold. But now if you're sitting on like a Coinbase account or whatever, and then you can buy some, it makes it a lot easier. This is the same phenomenon that happened with Bitcoin back when these exchanges started to show up. Are you Has it crossed your mind that doing this sort of thing will increase the price of gold due to the um not necessarily the demand going up, but the amount of people who can not can the resistance to buying it is less. There's less practical
Yeah.
things that you have to
Well,
worry
that would
about. Like
be,
I don't have to worry about finding a vault, and I don't have to worry about finding a buyer or a seller, like then going to make sure it's transferred. Like I can just go on the blockchain and buy some.
well, I mean, that would be awesome if we could control this, if we could actually move this market. But you have to understand something about gold. I didn't know this about gold. Maybe you do, but I didn't understand this about gold. And gold is the biggest asset class in the world. So when you look at the gold reserves of the world, it's like, I, I can't even remember what it is, but it's trillions of dollars. And
Okay, well,
the
never never
it,
mind then. My question is void.
so
But
but that's not but that's but what you said is valid. Where what's interesting is people don't have access to gold. That's countries and banks. People like me and you, we need gold. And I don't want to get passionate about it or like over dramatic about it, but like we're being robbed. We're
hmm
being robbed. And access to gold, whether or not it goes up or down, doesn't matter. We need to save our savings. We need to save our checking account to the evil dollar that's gobbling it up. And do you know what's going on is we're Americans, we're like frogs being boiled because we have never had a bad currency before. We've
nope.
never known what it's like to have hyperinflation. We've never known what it's like to have a deflating dollar like it's deflating, like the true decay of the dollar. We've never experienced it before. But you go to talk to somebody who lived in Argentina, you go talk to somebody who lives in Kenya, or somebody who lives in Zimbabwe, or someone who,
Greece, wherever.
Greece, this is a real problem, a real issue. And so, with that being said, it's not about speculation. We don't care if it goes up. We don't care if it goes down. We just know that owning gold in traditionally in the long-term sense, it protects our buying power, which gives us sovereignty. It gives us while the rest of the world goes broke, we're at least going to stay above water. And you know what? In hard times, that's better than anything to be able to just stay above water. Think about what $25,000 looked like 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
hmm
$25,000 is just, it's so hard to live when inflation's doing what it's doing to us. And so this is an out. This is an alternative to that. And the only thing you have to do is trust us. And that's a big deal. But do it with somebody. Put your money with somebody with gold. You should everybody. And I'll be done after this. Everybody should have a little bit of gold and a little bit of silver at their house. Everybody. And everybody's like, why? For doomsday? No, for what I just talked about. Just a really good savings account.
hmm
For doomsday too, whatever. But you should have gold and silver. And then you should look into a digital equivalent like we've been talking about today and think about going all in because it saved my bacon in 25 and saved my bacon in 24 too. It's been a good store of value.
Are you guys going to get on the exchanges like Coinbases and the other kind of similar things like that?
We're on Coinstore right now. So if you go to coinstore.com, you can look us up. It's the call number is STBLG. So stable abbreviated or stable without any vowels. So
hmm
STBLG is in gold. STBLG. You can buy it right now on the exchanges. STBLG. And you can buy it on our website. And it's not hard to buy STBL from us. It's not hard to buy stablecoin, but it's a little confusing. Not because we made it confusing, but because you got to understand cryptocurrency. Now, somebody that just knows who CoinStore is, they're going to go over there and they're going to have it bought in 15 seconds. They're going to be able to. It's built on Polygon, so you're going to want to have Polygon. If you've got Polygon, you can buy gold from us just easy peasy. Polygon, we didn't do it on Cardano, we did it on Polygon.
Okay. Was there a specific reason for that?
It's because the transaction fees are very, very low. And so I don't want you to have, so remember earlier when I said, there's the cost of premiums.
Hmm.
It's always been my shtick to be the least expensive entry for gold. So I didn't want my blockchain expenses to increase my cost of gold. I wanted the least expensive blockchain. I wanted to be able to make transactions happen for the least amount of money. And that's why we went with Polygon.
Okay, makes sense. I have um some like security questions, but I think that's not you and I are not the people to get into
Right.
the
It's
comp
not,
sci
I would
security
have to,
questions.
I would have to like punt anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Are you worried at all about so Brian Armstrong, he's the CEO of Coinbase, was on Sean Ryan's show, I don't know, a week or so ago, and he was talking about how Elizabeth Warren and some others were trying to shut them down before they got too big to be shut down, and kind of the powers that not being fans of crypto and kind of just general like the general struggle between like kind of what we talked about at the beginning, where the founders are talking about decentralization, personal sovereignty, and autonomy versus doesn't seem to be going that way in current times. Are you concerned at all about that for yourself or just like the people around you kind of in the enterprise that you're going for? Because you're touching on because gold and silver is one way to do it, crypto's another way, and you're like, no, I'll just do both.
It's a good point. Yeah, I am worried about it. My previous life, remember I told you I had a Forex brokerage?
Hmm.
I had to deal with regulators. And in dealing with regulators, you learn not to mess around with regulators because regulators can ruin your business. And so what's Elizabeth Warren? She's a grand regulator. She's a high up regulator. That's what she is. She's been elected to regulate. She's been
Hmm.
elected to like keep us safe. So am I worried about it? Yeah, I'm worried about it because people with bad policy can put us out of business. And there's nothing, I'm sure Mr. Armstrong would have said, I'm sure he said the same thing. I'm sure he said, these guys have got the guns. And so right now the administration is very positive and very bullish. But what happens when that flips? Are these Yahoos going to come in and like turn the table? Are they going to come in and like flip the table? We need to have some strong precedent and get some structure that we can work around and hopefully be immune from bad policy and bad ideas. It doesn't make any sense to regulate crypto. It doesn't make any sense to it doesn't, even though I'm screaming for it. But what I'm saying when I say it doesn't make any sense, when people talk about regulating, they just want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Why? What's the threat to you? The threat's to you because you can't have your central currency. Is that your problem? So you just showed your cards. You're like just a shield for the central banks. That's what you are. Because that's the only threat this is. This just gives us freedom. This gives us so much freedom, and it makes the technology the capabilities of it is liberating. I'm not saying it's the end all be all. It's not AI, which we got to get into AI before we end.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's not AI. But it's definitely revolutionary. Why do you want to get rid of it, Elizabeth? I don't get it. Like, what's your problem with it?
Yeah.
So I hope we can get enough down the road where people aren't scared of it anymore. It's stupid because you could turn a good thing into nothing by not understanding it and being ignorant.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you saw when I think it was the Google guys were on the stand at Congress and they're like asking them stuff about Facebook and they're like, I don't run that company. It's like they have no like some of the clips from some of those hearings are brutal and you're like, oh boy. Um,
Yeah, these are the guys. These are the guys that tell us that we can't have Google and Facebook.
yeah,
These are the
yeah,
guys that tell us
exactly.
that we can't have a brokerage account with Coinbase. These are the guys that tell us that to regulate the next stable. Anyway, it's just ridiculous because they'll just ruin it trying to help. They're
Yeah.
going to ruin it.
So one of the things also that Mr. Armstrong was mentioning on the show was that they've got this, I don't know if you call it activism, but like they've got this like calculator on if each person running for that office is good on crypto. And so they send out these blasts. I get them every once in a while. I'll be like, "Oh, this person's good on crypto. Call your congressperson on this legislation." And I think they've been relatively successful at turning this into a political issue where if you're bad on crypto, like you could
It's
not
not
get
good for you.
reelected. Yeah, and they'll pump money into advertising and these things. And so I think that's a positive just because like not even for not even for just like, oh yeah, people need to have Ethereum or whatever, but like you said, for the freedom and the sovereignty of just people to live how they want to live. And so, I mean, for me, that's super important. And I don't know, I'm optimistic about it. I think like the crypto coins are here to stay. Coinbase has is specifically in terms of US based ones. We saw the one with Sam Bankman-Fried and some of these other kind of scams and things going on like from offshore and foreign companies. But as far as US based ones, like Coinbase is too big now, I think, to shut down. Bitcoin's here to stay. These things are here to stay for at least for this foreseeable future. And I don't really know how they can make your life difficult for sure, and they can shut down the smaller ones. But as like a concept and an institution, I think we've hit critical mass in that
I
from
hope
that
so.
perspective.
I
So,
thought I thought that it was a little bit more mature of an industry than I've realized it is as I've gotten into crypto.
hmm
I remember my first show. I went to a show and I was like, "Boy, look at around. Everybody was hoodie. You know, they weren't really into networking. Nobody was in a suit. No, I mean, like this was the industry that I was going to bank on, right?" And I
hmm
went to my first conference and I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute. This is like on sandy foundation for sure."
Yeah,
But I've kind of warmed up to it. You know, it's not just all degens. It's starting to grow up, and I hope it is here to stay too. But I would say this: the reason why I just said what I said is it's a lot smaller than most people think.
it is though.
It's a
It is.
it's small.
But you get a weird mix of people at these sorts of things. And that's the other thing that's interesting about it. Like I've not been to one, but like I hear people talk about you get like the libertarian ones and then you get the hippies and then you get like there's like a weird mix of people that are
Everybody.
at these sorts of things.
It's a good slice of the populace on both sides.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned networking. So actually, do you have any other thoughts or things that you want to throw in there on crypto and gold and the kind of monetary side of things before we go
No,
to
but
your
just if
networking
you're
stuff?
buying silver and gold and you're not buying it for me, you're buying too much. You're just spending too much. That's all I got to say. The
Fair enough.
no, let's talk about networking. Let's talk about networking for a
Yeah.
second.
Before we jump to that, is in terms of the banking piece, and you mentioned the central banks and stuff. I recommend people go listen to or read Richard Werner's work. He presents it in a way that's easily digestible, and it kind of is very illuminating in terms of the central banks and the banking system and how those things work. But anyways, okay, so you've got this other thing called Find Reciprocity, this AI kind of networking tool. I'll let you kind of give the elevator pitch, and then we can talk about AI and what you guys want to do about it. But anyways, yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So this is a project that I just got started on not too long ago, and it started with an idea. And the idea is this: we go to shows, and we hand out 20 business cards, and we get 20 business cards, and we promise ourselves that we're going to go out and we're going to follow up. We're going to do everything it takes to do what it takes to yield some fruit from those relationships. And within 3 weeks, we are at a point where 99% of those contacts are duds. They're not going to work out. And you spent the time, the effort, the money on the show. You did your best to follow up, and nothing happens. So my idea is, what if you had an AI agent working for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on your behalf? So I built a software called Find Reciprocity. The software is called To Connect, but the company is called Find Reciprocity. And the idea is that you have your own AI agent. I have my own AI agent. Your AI agent learns everything there is to know about you. It learns about your wants, your desires, your ups, your downs, your what you're here for, what you're there for, what you can add, what you can take, what you need right now, what you're looking for, everything. And my AI agent looks for this and finds the same things out about me. And then they go out and 24 hours a day, they network with other AI agents. And when they find a reason for me and you, Eric, to get together, they come back to us independently and they say, "Hey, look, I found somebody for you. His name's Ryan. He would love to be on your podcast. He has these companies." And it was somebody come to me and say, "Hey, I found something for you. You know, there's this guy named Eric Jennings. He's a great podcast host. He wants you to be on his show. He'd love to." Anyway, instead of all of the work associated with finding one another, our agents will do it for us.
So love the idea. I've got a tough one for you. So you people are concerned with Palantir and surveillance and government being involved in AI things and kind of um you as your data is a commodity now that gets sold and
Yeah,
bought by advertisers, et
yeah,
cetera, et cetera. So we went from
yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah.
about sovereignty and freedom to now we're going to put everything onto an AI thing. How do you square
Yep.
that circle?
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love, absolutely love it. So first of all, let me, I can totally square it. First of all, let me just say the answer really fast, and then we'll dive
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
little bit. They work in sandboxes. They don't tell anybody anything. Those AI agents, they work independently. Your AI agent is only for you, and my AI agent is only for me. And they work in a sandbox. They don't tell, my AI agent doesn't tell you anything about me. It only tells you that there's somebody out there that meets your needs. That's all it does. And then the sandbox is where the AIs talk to each other. They don't share information. They talk to each other. They see that there's a need. They come back and they report to the owner of the AI. Now, how do I square it? I square it this way. Where our information is being sold. I'm not selling our information. I'm actually going to use the information for our well being. I'm actually going to say, hey, look, tell the AI agent everything there is to know about you, and it will do something good with your information. Like, for example, when I go sign up on Facebook, Facebook isn't giving me boo for my information. They're selling my information. They're trading my information. They're whoring it out. They're giving it to everybody. They're selling it 20 times to China. The more they can learn about me, the more money they can make off of me. The exact opposite is what I'm doing. I'm saying give all your human life value to one AI agent, trust that it's not going to go anywhere, and let it network for you. I mean, if there's ever a time to give your information to an entity, it's this time. Now, you have to again do your due diligence, make sure you feel comfortable with the way that I've engineered the software, et cetera. But for all intents and purposes, this is the first time that a networking company's come to you and said, let's take your psychometrics and let's make them beneficial for you, not beneficial for me, the owner of the software company.
Mm. One more follow-up to that. In terms of sandboxing, so you would have to touch the network, and by the network, I don't mean networking like LinkedIn or conferences, but like the computer network. And what's the like you've got safeguards in place, or is there enough sort of like ways to maybe anonymize the profile to where you're
Yeah,
not at
yeah,
risk from somebody coming in and then all of a sudden they can grab all your profiles, and not that you'd be asking for
yep,
like mother's maiden name and first
yeah,
pet and all these other things, but like if you
yeah,
get enough information and you can build a profile, you can steal somebody's identity even without like
sure,
right, obviously people go, oh, social security number, birthday, etc. But like if you get enough information about somebody, you can build a profile of them, you can de facto become that person online. So as I don't know, I call myself slightly paranoid, but like as some like where for if so I'm like, hey Ryan, I'd really love to join, but like that's my concern.
sure,
What do
sure.
you say to that?
I would point you to the encryption model that we've chosen to use, and then the sandbox philosophy that I described earlier to you. And then I think there's a place for blockchain. So there's just ways to encrypt. There's ways to have those AI agents not even talking in English to one another. They're just there. There's ways in which our information and the sharing of our information on that tool is going to be encrypted and kept from there being any sort of breaches that could give up what I call our personas, because I'm creating my own persona and you're creating your own persona, and then those personas go out and communicate with one another. Now, in the beginning and in the start of this, I mean, it's not going to be as awesome as I want it to be. You know, you don't launch with this robust, incredible, you know, enterprise software. You go with MVPs and you iterate and you learn and you iterate. But for all, I mean, and I want to say this: your concerns are the reason why, if I can't solve those concerns, I have no right being in the business, no right whatsoever. So they're not just like, I'm not just skirting past them, I'm not just
Yeah.
ignoring them. It's just a matter of tackling all the challenges that are associated with the security. But with that being said, the idea, bro, the idea of having the ability to telepathically tell a computer, go out there and fetch this for me, is badass.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. It's a great idea for sure. That's why, so like if people are interested in learning more, where should they go for that specifically? Um and
To
how and
go to
how are you building have you built up enough of a base for it to be useful? Are you still in like beta testing, or like where are you at with it?
Okay, great. Good question. I love it. I love it. So it doesn't do you any good if you're looking for me if I'm not on the network. If you're on the network, but you're looking for someone like me, you're looking for my persona, it doesn't do you any good to be on the network because you can't find me. And, I could be your perfect fit. I could be your perfect match. But if I'm not on the software, you're not finding me.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're going to um, event organizers. That's who we're looking for. So if you're an event organizer, or if you're somebody who's in charge of large conferences, CES, Bitcoin 2025, Token 2049 in Singapore, Dubai, any of these big shows, I want to talk to you because it's those shows where we can have the most amount of success for the attendees because they're all there for the same reason. They're there for similar purposes. It's just a matter of making the dots connect in the ten most important connections. And so we're going after event organizers in the beginning. Once we get mass adoption in the event organization, then we'll branch out from there. Because really, it's either that or going to like a Zuckerberg or a Microsoft on LinkedIn to get mass adoption of the software, right? So I've got to go to the places that have the clumps of people where the software would add the most amount of value, and then hopefully that case study can parlay into individuals wanting to use it. I mean, think about this. This is a Match.com buster.
Yeah.
Like, think this is so much better than dating websites. Swipe left, swipe right. Forget that, man. What do I really want?
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. I'm with you. No, the idea is great. Um, how did you come to these kind of the ethos of the freedom and the sovereignty and the like empowering people to do what they want to do? Is that something that you've always had? I mean, going back to the original story about selling cell phones, like you always kind of embodied that in a certain sense. You're like, I'm gonna drop out of college because I want to pursue this and like, was that something that evolved over time, or do you take because and the reason I ask specifically is I think like we mentioned before about politics being like kind of devolved in terms of a form of living, I think was the phrase that you used. But like the way that we think about the world kind of governs how we act and the things that we choose to endorse or not endorse or pursue or like how we are as people. And so the things that you've chosen to pursue as businesses have the ethos of the founding fathers and all these other things that we've talked about before. Like, is this something that you've thought through or is this something that you just like are? I don't really know if that makes sense, but like
No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
has it
It's
evolved over
it's a
time?
good question. It's a good question. It's a good observation too. It's a good question. It's a good observation. Um, I think I a little bit of both. I cognitively look for things that add value. I'm a principle based person. I believe that, like I told you earlier, I think that there's things that you can live by, and you can bank on the cause and effect of those things. Whether that's being good to other people, or whether it's being giving back, or being someone who's very abundance mindset. I think there's a lot to be said with that. I think you get back what you put out. And so I'm that way, but I also have a lot of love for the founders. I have a lot of love for like Ayn Rand and the idea of being a producer, not a moocher. I like the idea of, I like Fountainhead. I like, Atlas Shrugged. I love the idea of being the captain of a big group and going and charging through and winning. I like the idea of like one for all and all for one. I'm kind of I like to rally the Indians and go get after it. So I think that my businesses have kind of gone that way, but also maybe it's just destiny. I haven't made a lot of money in my life, and maybe I'm still shooting for it. I'm still going for it. And I don't necessarily want to go after things that I'm not passionate about because I want to be successful in something that would change the world. And I believe that cryptocurrency I talked about would change the world. I do. I think people having sound money is, I can't even express to you how important it is to have sound money. And then the find reciprocity. It's like, bro, if I could find that one person, I lay in bed and I think, if I could just find that one person, he would revolutionize my business. He would revolutionize all my ideas. He could take all of my businesses and take them to the moon. But it's hard to find that person. So I think that find reciprocity could change the world. So I want to be a part of a company that can change the world. And so I think it's just a part of me. And to go back to the original thought of being a cell phone guy, when you really feel the first tastes of success, you as a grown man, you can't work for somebody. It doesn't work. You can't do it. You can't spend your day working for somebody else. It just hurts too much. And so, hats off to everyone that's been able to make that leap and go forward, without the man. And hats off to everybody out there still in the pain and in throes of it, working for the man and wanting to break through. You can do it. Go. Get up out. You don't have to quit today, but get started today. Get going today. Because you're not living if you're working for somebody. And when you feel that at an early age, you that's what you search for all your life. And if you're searching for all your life good businesses, you're going to find cool businesses, because there's stupid businesses and then there's good businesses. I wouldn't say that my companies are cool businesses or making money businesses, but they're what I like. There's stuff I like, and there's purpose behind them, and my vision and my values and my mission are all there.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have, or that you wanted to touch on?
No, man, you've been great. It's been fun.
I appreciate that. Do you have so when you were little, was that sort of the working for yourself? Was that kind of instilled in you, or did you find it by accident?
No, so I grew up in the potato farms of Idaho. So when I grew up in Idaho, I used to move irrigation pipes. Me and the immigrants, we used to move irrigation pipe every day, every morning, every afternoon. I moved these big, heavy 3-inch aluminum pipes 25 feet north, and then 25 feet north the next day, and 25 feet north the next day. And then we would get to the end of the potato field and we would come back. And I learned that, with numbers, you make money, because the more I would move, the more money I would make. So it was like, okay, numbers game, numbers game, numbers game. That was my first thing, numbers game, numbers game. Then I started getting smart, and I'm like, well, I can sell cookies and lemonade, and I don't have to go out to the potato field. Or I can sell the potatoes themselves. I don't have to go and grow the potatoes. I can sell the potatoes. Or I can start driving truck and tractor. I don't have to be in the field doing labor. I can actually do the easier parts. And started dawning on me, okay, there's a pecking order. And business was just ingrained in me. When I started doing that when I started selling cell phones and I started doing the numbers with cell phones, self-interest started to seep in. And self-interest is a very powerful thing. When you start doing the numbers and you're like, damn, I just made $1,000, today. And you're 19 and 2000 or 2001, that's a lot of money for a young kid. So I just started doing the numbers, and it made sense to me. And then that became part of me. That entrepreneurial spirit I can't see myself doing anything other than that.
Yeah.
I can't. How can you do anything other than that? You know what I could do more? I could be a rock star. I would love that more. Or I could be like a sports guy, like a LeBron or somebody. But other than that, dude, entrepreneurship. That's it. That's all there is.
That's a great way to wrap up. Last question. Best piece of advice you ever received?
Whoa. I don't know how to answer that question. You got me. Usually I can be able to come off just give something decent, but I mean, you have to educate yourself. I had a mentor who taught me all these principles. I went to his soirees, or his kind of get-togethers, where he would sit in front of everybody and he would rap, and he would just bring the principles and bring the heat and tell you how good you are. He was like a Tony Robbins times 10. He was just very motivational, and he taught me that principles govern. And that what we talked about today is true. If you do certain ABCs, you can expect a 1, 2, 3 to come from it. There's a cause and effect to everything. But in order to know what you need to know to have a cause and effect happen in your life, you're going to have to educate yourself. So you got to read, you got to learn, you got to listen, you got to educate, you got to ask questions. If you can learn, you can go break paradigms. You can go make big things happen with the power of thought. But you can't do that by sitting in your basement praying. You can't do that. You've got to go act. You got to go learn. You got to go read the books. And so I think the most important advice I've ever received is to educate myself and to fill my brain with good stuff. Because if you do, you can act upon that information and make the world a better place. You can make your life better. You can transform where you are.
Yeah. Where should the people go if they're interested in either the crypto or the networking tool?
Just go to so a couple places. You can go to 2connect.ai. So the number 2connect or the letter 2 or the number 2connect.ai. You can go to STBL.io for the crypto. That's stable with no vowels.io, STBL.io. Or you can always go check me out on ryanbest.com and just shoot me a message and say, hey man, I saw you on the podcast. Love to get to know you, or I'd love to come on or talk to you, or whatever. ryanbest.com. You can always find me there.
All right, sounds good. As always, those links will be in the description. Any last nickels before we get you out of here?
Bro, you've been great, man. This is fun. I
Uh,
appreciated it.
yeah, likewise. For those listening, check the links out in the description. Thank you for listening, and we will see you guys next time. Peace. Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you want to watch another episode like this one, click there. If you want to subscribe, click there.